President Trump and the GOP indeed have the votes to confirm the next conservative justice to the Supreme Court as panicked Democrats threaten civil war. In this video, we're going to look at how Trump has already announced that he will indeed be putting forward a SCOTUS nominee before the election, how the Democrats have collapsed into utter hysterics, and how it's all for naught. The GOP does indeed have the votes to transform the court into a conservative majority for the next generation and beyond. You are not going to want to miss this one. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you as always. If this is your first time here at this channel, I post 2 videos a day analyzing current events, analyze some super awesome conservative trends so we can all live in the present in light of even better things to come. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It'd be an absolute privilege to have you as a regular part of this channel where each and every day we together celebrate the collapse of left-wing globalism and the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age. But first, before you do anything else, make sure to click on that link below and head on over to my special website for my Patriot Food Supply. As we saw with the whole pandemic insanity, we simply can't wait for an emergency to happen before we respond to one. And no one makes preparing for an emergency more ridiculously easy and affordable than my Patriot Supply. Gang, they're simply the best. They're our good friends. Their food kits last up to 25 years in storage. They include breakfast, lunches, and dinners. And best of all, they've got a guarantee policy. It's going to absolutely knock your socks off. And if you act now, you can save $100 off a full 4-week emergency food supply when you click on that link below to my special website. You heard that right, 100 smackers off, so do not wait. I've got my food supply. Make sure you get yours. Click on that link below or go to preparewithsteve.com and save $100 off your very own 4-week emergency food supply today. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. The Democrats are openly threatening, as one headline put it, violence, arson, and civil war if Trump and the Republicans follow through with their intent at filling the Supreme Court seat vacated by the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The death of Ginsburg has obviously, it is patently obvious that her death has completely taken the Democrats by surprise. It's completely blindsided them, which is proven by the fact not only that their rhetoric is increasingly hysterical, as it does look like Trump and the Republicans are about to fill her seat before the election, right? We'll talk about that in a minute. But it's not just their increasingly hysterical rhetoric, it's also their inherently incoherent rhetoric. The Democrats have been reduced to launching threats, so that's the hysterics. But the threats are all over the place. They're totally incoherent when considered together. They're literally threatening anything and everything they could possibly think of. And that suggests to me that Ginsburg's death took the Democrats totally by surprise. They simply weren't prepared for it. By contrast, right? By contrast, Trump seems to have been totally prepared for it. Do you think it a coincidence that he released a new list of potential SCOTUS picks literally days before Ginsburg's death? And by the way, have you noticed Joe Biden hasn't done that? Isn't that interesting? So Trump releases this new list of potential, SCOTUS picks. And the moment we hear of Ginsburg's death, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell announced, well, we're in the process now of securing the votes needed to go ahead and fill that seat. So is that not interesting? What a contrast, right? In other words, we couldn't be seeing more polar opposite reactions to Ginsburg's death. So one is tempered and measured and procedural. The other is absolutely hysterical and incoherent and cacophonous. So I've got to wonder whether Trump had some information that she was, in her last hours and therefore was able to prepare. Again, while at the same time, the Democrats seem to have been caught completely off guard in all this. So I don't know. Are we seeing some 4D chess on the part of Trump here? We'll have to see. As far as the Democrats are concerned, it is clear that they've completely lost it, and that's not going to bode very well for them going into this. They need to be sober. They need to be calculated. They need to be thinking several steps ahead, just like McConnell, right? That's what makes Mitch so impressive as the majority leader. But the Democrats aren't. The Democrats are unhinged. They're absolutely falling apart right before our very eyes. And as a result, one pundit is describing their collective reaction as what he calls the Armageddon Option. The Armageddon Option just simply put just a massive threat that just throws together all the possible retaliations that the Democrats could possibly do if the Republicans go ahead and fill Ginsburg's seat before the election, which looks like they're going to do. And I'm very sure you've heard some of these retaliatory threats. One threat is that the Democrats do get control of the Senate on November 3rd. They'll begin stacking the court. And what this refers to is that they're saying, you know, there's nothing in the Constitution that requires there only be 9 seats in the Supreme Court, right? We heard this with the whole Kavanaugh hearings. It seems to be a bluff, but they'll say there's nothing that says there has to be 9 seats. And so what they're going to do is they're going to arbitrarily add more seats and fill those seats with a new leftist liberal majority. Now, again, they could go ahead and do that, but once you've done that, what's to stop the Republicans when they take over the Senate again to do the very thing? I mean, theoretically, we're going to eventually have a 500 Supreme Court justices, right? I mean, it's absurd. And it seems to me that most voters see through this as just, these are petty sore loser tactics on the part of the Democrats. They've lost. They've never accepted the fact that they've lost, as just simply by how they're acting also in 2020. They know they're going to lose again. So if you're interested, we did a special video over the weekend when news first broke that that Ginsburg had died. And we pointed out that as Ginsburg has died, so has the Democrats' hopes that they're going to be able to steal the election in a few weeks. Trump has already lawyered up so as to make sure all the mail-in voting goes to the Supreme Court and shut it down. And now there's no way that Roberts can join ranks with the 4 liberals on the court and provide the 5th vote against Trump. That's gone. That's over. It's gone both in terms of Trump filling Ginsburg's seat with a reliable conservative, so that you have a solid 5-vote majority conservative bloc, or it's gone in terms of Roberts being under enormous pressure to vote with the 4 conservatives as over and against the 3 liberals so as to avoid a tie. So either way, Roberts doesn't look like he's going to flip, and so Trump has effectively taken control over the courts if and when they decide on the outcome of the November election. So the Democrats, they're beginning to actually realize that they've lost again. 2020 is going to be a Trump landslide, and now with Ginsburg gone, they're absolutely freaking out. So they're threatening to stack the court, right? That's one thing. Secondly, they're threatening to impeach Trump all over again to try to stall the process. So once again, we're seeing impeachment being used as a blatant political weapon by the Democrats. And of course, Trump is like, bring it on. Impeachment was the most politically embarrassing failure we've seen of late. If you want to go back and revisit that political disaster, Pelosi, I'd love to see you do it. I can't wait to see what the results will be on November 3rd. Again, remember, we have to remember that the Democrats are already talking about what they're calling a red mirage on Tuesday, on Election Day. In other words, they're already predicting, and keep in mind, these are Democrats, Democrat operatives, Democrat strategists. They're already predicting a massive Trump landslide on November 3rd. And so they're working on getting state courts to allow voting for upwards of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the election, so as to be able to fabricate enough votes to overturn the election. And again, that's what Trump is preparing. That's what he's lawyering up for to make the November 3rd results ratified and finalized, which now the Democrats realize would end up in the Supreme Court, not just without Ruth Bader Ginsburg to vote in their favor, but most likely now with a solid 5-vote conservative majority, 3 of whom would have been appointed by Trump. So they're threatening to stack the court. The Democrats are threatening impeachment. Again, these are all incoherent with one another. So they're obviously just throwing whatever they've got to see if anything sticks. But there's something even more hysterical here, which we'll get to in a moment. But first, we are so excited to announce the beginning of Turley Talks TV. Now, I know a lot of you get tired of hearing ads before getting to our videos, right? Like this one, right? I know a lot of you get frustrated with interruptions by Google ads while watching our videos. And I know a lot of you have expressed concern about cancel culture on YouTube and the risk that this channel faces in light of that. Well, friends, that is why we're introducing Turley Talks TV. By clicking on the link below today, you can get sponsor-free videos each and every day that are completely immune from left-wing cancel culture. You can watch our videos from any platform on any device and stay updated on a rising conservative age. So sign up today at Turley Talks TV. You can watch from anywhere for just $4.99 a month. So what are you waiting for? Click on that link below to sign up, and let's enjoy the rise of this new conservative age together. All right, so perhaps the most absurd hysterics that we're hearing is from the Twitterverse, where there are calls by verified account users to literally, quote, burn the entire effing thing down. A Canadian political science professor actually tweeted out, burn Congress down before letting Trump try to appoint anyone to SCOTUS. And perhaps most bizarre of all, Michael Moore is calling on Nancy Pelosi to shut down the government to prevent Trump and the Republicans from moving forward to fill Ginsburg's seat. Now, what on earth shutting down the House of Representatives has to do with a Senate-specific responsibility is anyone's guess. But again, it's a further admission that this has taken them completely by surprise. Now, keep in mind, it's all an admission that the Democrats are simply not going to be able to stop this. The media is admitting it reluctantly, mournfully, of course. The Democrats would have to flip 4 Republican senators to stop this, which is hugely unlikely since it would be political suicide for the 4th flipper, shall we say. We can expect they'll be able to flip 3, Collins, Murkowski, and probably Romney. Romney has joined officially the opposition at this point. Anything that Trump needs, Romney joins the Democrats to deny him. So that's a 50-50 Senate vote, which means that Vice President Pence, as the leader of the Senate, would cast the decisive vote. And of course, the whole process for confirmation would be totally streamlined. Lindsey Graham, the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, he has already said quite openly he's going to ram through this nominee, especially after the absurd nonsense that the Democrats reduced themselves to and embarrassed themselves to with this whole Kavanaugh nomination process. Again, we've talked about this before, but the Democrats are not very strategic, as we're seeing right now, right? They are extremely impulsive. They're very capricious. And so the antic that they pulled surrounding the Kavanaugh hearings are now coming back to bite them. So Lindsey Graham has said openly that those antics have proved to him, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the Democrats are just simply not interested. They're not serious about vetting a potential Supreme Court justice. All they care about is defaming, debunking, destroying, defeating. And so they've lost their chance to vet as far as he's concerned. They're not going to be able to vet the Republicans will. And if the Republicans are satisfied, then they will ram through a vote and the Supreme Court will have its first official conservative majority since the 1950s Warren Court that began the age of left-wing judicial activism, which is about to come to a crashing halt. It's being reported that McConnell does indeed. He has secured the votes he needs for the confirmation to go through. And it does look like we are looking at a solidly conservative majority Supreme Court for the next generation. And the best part, the Democrats are absolutely powerless to stop it. Now, before you go, make sure to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. And you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded over the weekend on how the death of Ginsburg does mean the death of the Democrats' hopes in stealing the 2020 election. You're not going to want to miss that. So make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.